a heck of a morning here in Surprise, and a heck of a last 20 minutes. We've had Skip Schumaker have to bow out, and now Skip Schumaker is back on, baby. At 2:45 our time, 3:45 your time, so it'll be the last segment. We're going to move some things around, but whew, it's been something else. Kat doing a great job going back and forth. She's producing tonight, or today, the Queen. It's all good here. Unfortunately, the weather in Surprise not very good. Last week it was beautiful. It rained overnight. Sunday night into Monday was okay. Yesterday I was able to run outside, and then today there will be no running outdoors. It has rained and it is cold and windy. It happens like this there's one day every spring before workouts start, or I'm sorry, before games start, when the weather is crappy and everything gets pushed inside. And the timing couldn't have been worse today, but Skip very generously has moved things around. He might be fresh off a golf cart, probably still in uniform when he does this, but he's going to do it, by God, and I can't be more happy, and I hope you guys are too. I'm going to do something a little controversial here. My laptop does not have a like a selfie button or a camera on the back. I don't know if any do. So I'm going to turn this around very slowly, and we're going to look at Surprise Stadium right now. So here we go. All right, there's some more press boxes, radio booths. All right, I hope this is working, because this is a fly by the seat of the pants thing. So anyway, you can see field looks ready. I hope the players are ready. I hope that worked. I hope you guys aren't dizzy. Anyway, on to some news from camp that we either missed yesterday because we didn't have a show, or that popped up today. And we'll start with Friday's game, the first Cactus League game, the Cactus League opener, which is always against those Royals from Kansas City. Nathan Eovaldi is going to start, probably 2 innings max, probably 30 pitches max, so maybe he gets removed in his second inning if he's not as efficient as he likes to be. But Nathan Eovaldi is starting the opener. Now, does that mean he's going to start the season opener? Is he going to start an opening day at Philadelphia? I don't think there's a correlation, though. Maybe there ultimately is. I would think it would be a coincidence, though. Jacob deGrom is firmly in that conversation. Skip Schumaker already said both guys will be starting during that series, and I think it's just a matter of who's on what schedule. It seems like, though, Jacob deGrom is just fine with this kind of a slower build-up to spring training. He threw today in the lab a bullpen session that was scheduled before the rain hit and forced the live BPs to the lab, and he's fine with it. He doesn't seem to know when he's going to throw live batting practice or when he's going to pitch in a game. But he said it worked last year. It got him to 30 starts, and he thinks that this is going to allow him this little delay to stay fresh, but also to clean up some mechanics. That's why he was back in the lab. This guy's pretty meticulous. He was trying to explain it to me today, and if his lead arm is going behind him in his windup instead of down, that seems to be what causes him to open up. It's really fascinating to talk to this guy and see how his mind works. It's all about the mechanics for Jacob, as we've been saying for a while now. So there you go. Nathan Eovaldi is going to start Friday. Unfortunately, the game will not be on television, radio, or webcast. I seem to remember us going over that. There were some complicating issues, I guess, on the webcast. Not the least of which we will address in the batting cleanup, which we're going to move to segment 3 today. Anyway, it'll be a game. We'll be here. I'm going to go catch a flight after that and go on home for a week. Next up, injured pitchers. Mark Church and Emiliano Teodo, neither one is really injured. They have overcome their injuries, but the Rangers are taking it slow with them. They each threw a bullpen session with the rehab group on Tuesday. Church has thrown multiple bullpens. He has a teres major issue that he had last season that he's overcome. Teres major is right at the bottom of the scapula. And then old Emiliano Teodo, his back woes from last year, he said that they're okay and that his first bullpen yesterday of the spring went fine. He's probably a few weeks from throwing live, but at least he's throwing, which is a very good sign for him. And, if it's dialed in, you never know. He's on the 40-man roster, could be needed. Sebastian Walcott, injury update. He's still hurt. He's still not in camp, and we still don't know when he's having surgery. I don't know what the holdup is or what the super secret is here. Why not just give us a date? Maybe Keith Meister has to work into the schedule. As we'll talk about in batting cleanup, Keith Meister's been busy here the last day or so with another major league pitcher on another team with another elbow injury. So we have that to juggle. But it's all good. I don't think it's going to delay Walcott too much anyway. Live BPs continue to happen. Yesterday was a real busy day with 11 of them. I think there were 7 today. Of course, the media is not allowed into the pitching lab. It's top secret. Only they want to protect their information, I guess. Whatever it is, media is not allowed there. So we didn't get to see, among others, Josh Spor's throw. We were looking forward to that. But alas, we will have to wait to see that another day. Yesterday, on that mega day of live BPs, there were a lot of guys who Skip Schumaker raved about. Some of them we're going to talk about in our next segment. A lot of young guys. The one the one veteran he did mention, and he mentioned him first, was Mackenzie Gore, the left-hander acquired from the Nationals late in January, late in the off season, and a good guy. And Skip had talked about earlier in camp how much extension Gore gets. And I was watching it. It is crazy because it's not like he's like 6'9". He's my height, maybe 6'1", and he dips. He gets really low in his windup. But yeah, there is a ton of extension there. It looked like he was throwing the ball hard, whatever that equates to. I didn't see the numbers. And then his slider / curveball looked pretty good. Also, at the same time on the other field, Alexis Diaz was throwing. I wrote about him today in the at alldls.com, and Diaz was really happy with it. I talked to him today about it. He said that the feedback he got from the hitters, who were good hitters, right? Langford, Peterson, well, Langford, Seager, Peterson, in theory. Peterson did hit a home run on the last pitch, but Diaz was happy with where the fastball was, the command of it. He got some swings and misses on it, and he hit 94, and that's not insignificant. Last year, the average on his fastball was 93.5. He said he wasn't even trying to throw hard. So that tells me, and probably tells him, that his mechanics are in the right spot. The mechanics are the key for this guy. If he gets everything straightened out, he's got a chance. But he has to throw strikes in that also. So he was very, very happy with how things went. On the hitting side in those live BPs, like I said, Jock Peterson did a home run. So did Wyatt Langford off of Carter Baumler, who otherwise looked good. Well, again, we're going to talk about that some more. A lot of these guys are just tracking pitches. Like I watched a Brandon Nimmo at bat, and he didn't take the bat off the shoulders, but he was getting in there, tracking pitches, watching them. They have the TrackMan device on every field. The Rangers have it set up, and so somebody will call ball or strike on close pitches. A couple of them, like Kyle Higashioka, who was catching, turned around and was like, "What's going on here?" That looked like a strike. So as we get closer to the games with the ABS, what are the Rangers going to do? That was something else we talked about with Skip yesterday. And, there are guys who they're going to primarily want to make the challenges. I think the catchers are going to be the two guys who make the most challenges to pitches. They have the better view. They're generally less emotional than the pitcher about a particular pitch. And batting wise, I think like Evan Carter, Brandon Nimmo, Corey Seager, and Wyatt Langford, who we all know has been victimized more than anybody in baseball the last 2 years by pitches called strikes out of the zone. Those guys are probably going to get opportunities to, to tap their helmet and make sure that the dadgum umpire gets it right. So those have been like the big Ranger stories the last couple of days. The biggest story, though, obviously, is this Tony Clark flap that's been happening with the Players Association. He resigned. Or word of his resignation was coming, broke yesterday morning. And the immediate speculation was that there were some federal investigations into Clark and some of the activities at the Players Association that the Eastern District Court in New York is looking at. That's trouble. Anytime you hear that, something's up. And then in the afternoon, Jeff Passan, my buddy with ESPN, tweeted that Tony Clark had an inappropriate relationship with his sister-in-law, who had been hired by the union. They have offices in New York, and they have one in Scottsdale, and Tony is from or lives in Arizona, and apparently so does his sister-in-law. His wife's sister, for those wondering at home, not his brother's wife. It doesn't matter. It's terrible, right? Just awful. I think this was the straw that broke the back. I think that a lot of players have been wanting to move on from Clark. It seems like, especially the guys at the lower end of the spectrum, or the guys who are in, I guess, baseball's middle class, which seems to be growing and growing as salaries are taking off at the upper end for sure. We have $40 million players. I think Kyle Tucker's a $65 million player this year with ample amounts of it deferred, but you get the picture, right? And it didn't seem to be much of a concern for Tony that there were players being left behind. I mean, you kind of look at free agency this year, right? You get really good players who are signing minor league deals. Just this last week, what the Padres have done. Each of those guys probably, maybe not Ty France, but each of those guys, the pitchers, probably needed a major league deal. But for whatever reason, they're not getting them. And I think a lot of the blame is going to Tony Clark on that. And I think that there are some arguments and some of the things that are being considered in these past few CBAs, like creature comforts for players. Like they were sacrificing, it's a negotiation. So it's like, all right, we'll give you this, but you give us that. Well, the players are asking for like an extra bus and for their own seat on the bus, for instance. Well, you have to give some. Is that really worth the fight? That sounds like kind of a creature comfort instead of something that a hardline negotiator would do. Now, the union is going to meet today via telephone or conference call, whatever they do this year, these days, Zoom. And it is expected that they're going to vote on a new and interim head of the union, Bruce Meyer, who's the lead negotiator. He is the leading candidate, though there are others, and there are some who say, well, let's keep him where he is, let somebody else do it. I saw a story that said maybe Andrew Miller, the former pitcher who was always a big union guy and has retired and has been a pretty quickly been a pretty public face for the union. There's some other lawyers and stuff who could do it. Somebody said bring back Donald Fair. But I think the point here is that the players want to get this right. And I think the big thing, something Jeff Passan wrote and something I think we're all thinking, is that the players have to win the war here as far as making sure games aren't missed. That has to be their position. It looks like this thing's headed to a lockout. They don't want to do the salary cap. They need to have meaningful proposals that avoid any cancellation of games. That would be a disaster for baseball with the fans who already see them making a ton of money and don't like it. And boy, to see games missed, even if it is ultimately the owner's fault, the players are going to get some blame in there too. So anyway, that's went super fast. And I know we're going to be following this union story for a while. So stay tuned to that one. Also stay tuned for what we have coming up. Next segment, some stars of camp, and we'll cleanup, then Skip Schumaker, barring another live BP that pops up and pushes him back right after this. Heyo, Wild Fork Foods, Meat and Seafood Market, www.wildforkfoods.com. That's where you go online. You can become a member there for like $29 for a year. You get delivery options, free delivery. Hello. You don't even have to go to one of the 9 DFW locations, but I would advise you to do that. These people are fantastic. They know so much about what they're selling, all the different kinds of meats, the different cuts of meats, where they're from. They will school you on how to prepare things, how to thaw things out. And, their food at Wild Forks is flash frozen. It's not frozen like a brick. It's flash frozen as soon as it's you know butchered or whatever the term is. You can buy a 3-pound, let's say, picanha. I'll have that thing thawed in like an hour, and you can cook it that same day, season it up, get it ready to go. We really love Wild Fork Foods. They're good people. Again, wildforkfoods.com. And then I've never met anybody at Prize Picks, but I'm sure they're fine people. I am a big fan of Prize Picks, as you guys know, prizepicks.com/DLS. If you make a $5 wager, $5 lineup, you will get a $50 in free lineups. So they're giving you ample opportunities to fatten your wallet. And if you go on there today, they have what's called a protected lineup for $5, risk free. You submit a $5 lineup, 2 to 6 players. If you end up winning that lineup, great. If you don't, you get your $5 back. That's at prizepicks.com/DLLS. All right, moving on to segment 2. We're going to talk about some stars at camp. I'm going to answer a text message really fast. I'll talk while I try to do it. We pushed back to 2:45. All right. Well, I appreciate Rangers PR looking out for us at DLS. Okay, stars of camp so far. It's always a good time to go ahead and see who's making an early impression, and of course you're always going to look to DeGrom and Evaldi, and they're doing fine, and Robert Garcia is ahead of things and looking good. You haven't heard any reports about this, anybody saying, "Oh my God, this guy looks terrible." You have heard those things in the past, okay? Trust me. But so far, so good. Again, for the most part, on the injury front, things are good. But Skip Schumaker has really taken an interest, it would seem, on these young pitchers who are in camp, on internal non-roster invites. We'll go ahead and start our list with a guy who he has talked about basically since the very, very first day, and that's Gavin Collier. I know a lot of you have talked about him and seen his name bandied about online and all of that stuff. I had a chance to talk with Gavin today, and he was about as nice can be. A good kid, kind of a funky delivery that's hard to repeat, but it gives him the deception that makes his fastball, which gets into triple digits, that much more difficult to hit. The key for Gavin, as he said, is making sure the mechanics are repeatable, which you do through a lot of reps. I've seen him do some dry work when he's not throwing in bullpens or live batting practice. And then also, he needs to trust his stuff. He's been told repeatedly that his stuff plays well when it's over the plate and in the strike zone. And so that's something he's going to focus on. You look at the goods that he did last year. He was at AA, then he got up to AAA at the end of the year. He struck out, I think it was 86 guys in 61 innings, 61 and change on the innings. And that's great. But he walked 46. And Skip Schumaker said something today. He said, "I don't like guys that walk a lot of people." So before Gavin can win a roster spot, he has to show that he's in the strike zone. he'll have an opportunity. There are guys every spring who make a name for themselves, who open eyes. The first name I remember was way back, I believe, in 2011, Mason Tobin. Do we remember Mason Tobin? He didn't last long because he got hurt and wrecked his arm, but he made an opening day roster even though he never pitched above A ball. Robbie Ross, a few years later, we knew he was a draft choice, like second round pick, I believe, from Lexington, Kentucky. He, had been a starter in the minors, comes and has just this unbelievable spring, and he's a reliever, and he carried like a ERA below 1 for most of the first half. Okay, Nick Tepesh might have been the same year. Nick Tepesh came in, opened eyes, was like the fifth starter. So I mean, it's entirely possible. Last year, Mark Church opened eyes. I'm sorry, 2 years ago he opened eyes. Last year he made the open day roster, which transitions me to Robbie Alstrom, who last year made a big impression, especially with Mike Maddox and Bruce Bochy. Obviously, they're both gone, but Skip Schumaker has talked about Robbie Alstrom. There are pockets, when the Rangers talk about pockets and trying to find a good set of hitters for these relievers to go through. Robbie Alstrom can fill some pockets, okay? The fastball and the slider against lefties are weapons. He's throwing a split to help against his effectiveness against right-handed hitters, and he was really in the zone and in a zone on, I think it was Monday, when Skip Schumaker was just posted behind him on a knee watching. It could have been Sunday. Anyway, you get my point. This guy's being watched. Now it'll depend a lot. Like if Jacob Lance doesn't make the rotation, he's going to make be in the bullpen. So that would probably be a detriment to Robbie Alstrom. But the fact of the matter is that everybody believes that Robbie Alstrom will pitch in the major leagues this year. Just a matter of when. Could it be opening day? I think it could be. I really do. I just saw Carter Baumler's name pop up. Kelly, man, I'm with you on that one. Talked to him Saturday or Sunday. Good kid. Let's start off there. Good kid. He's the Rule 5 guy. For those of you just tuning in, he's the Rule 5 guy, and so he kind of has an inside track. To keep a guy who you select in the Rule 5 draft, he has to be on the active roster the whole season. Now, what does that mean, whole season? I think technically it's 90 or 91 days. He can be injured, yes, but 90 or 91 days. If he does not achieve that, or if team can't live with a Rule 5 guy, you have to designate him for assignment. He has to clear waivers, and then he has to be offered back to the initial team, where the team that lost him in the Rule 5, in this case, the Orioles. The Orioles can take him back for $50,000, which is half of the Rule 5 cost, or you can work out a trade. I remember that happening, I think, with Ben Snyder. Anybody remember Ben Snyder? I think Ben Snyder has been one of those guys, who the Rangers worked out a trade, and it was either the Giants or the Orioles. It was definitely black and orange. I just don't remember which one. So Baumler on the mound. Skip Schumaker loves his curveball. It's a 12-6 curveball. Says the fastball yesterday during live batting practice was being thrown for strikes. It was a good, effective pitch. So, as a reliever, you really just need the two pitches. I do wonder, do they feel comfortable with Baumler going multiple innings? I would think he would have to if he's going to be one of the 8 guys in the bullpen. There's some injury history there. There's a lot of inexperience. He's barely been above A ball, but the stuff looks like it's for real. And if it is, then he's got a chance to make this team, considering the Rule 5 stipulations and all of that stuff. So he's got to be good. I mean, he has to pitch well in these games. And again, early on, when the relievers pitch, unless you are the first or second reliever in the game, you're not facing great hitters. You're facing minor leaguers who, yes, you need to perform against, but the Rangers really would like to see him perform against, taking the Royals as an example, Bobby Witt Jr., Jack Caglione, all the players. We all know who they are. So we'll see. That one's going to be kind of a work in progress all spring. and late into spring, late into the camp, you're still going to see Carter Ballmer because he is on the 40-man roster, can't be optioned, all of that stuff. Then one other guy that Skip did mention today when we talked about him was Winston Santos. Yesterday, I don't know if you guys saw this or read it somewhere. He was almost decapitated by a Kyle Higashioka line drive during live BP. Rangers pitchers don't pitch with an L screen in front of them during live BP. Santos got his glove on it and anyway, avoided major injury. He did have a padding on it this morning, but Skip Schumaker said all good there. The thing that impressed Skip the most was that Santos stayed in the game, or stayed in the live batting practice. Some guys might have elsewhere bowed out and said, "No, the hell with this. I'm going to the locker room," especially against Y. Langford and Corey Seager and a pretty good group of major league hitters. He stayed in there, finished. That really impressed Skip, the bulldog mentality. Of course, Santos is a good pitcher. He can get up to 98, maybe a tick higher. Needs to work on his changeup. He's on the 40-man. There was the back deal early last season that cost him a couple months, so maybe he needs a little more experience in the minor leagues. But I think eventually he'll be an option either as a reliever or a starter. Again, the 40-man thing helps. 40-man thing helps a whole heck of a lot. So, I saw also over there, guys, Kelly Mann, Josh Trinidad, who was mentioned this morning by Skip as a guy who impressed him yesterday. Josh, it's interesting. He's left-hander, so that can't hurt, right? He's not the biggest guy, which I don't know if I was surprised by it or not, because obviously I've seen his height and weight and all that stuff. But nevertheless, it still surprised me a little bit. He went to the Rangers drafted him from a junior college, I think, College of Southern Idaho. Um, that's exactly right. And he was great. He had a 16 flat strikeout rate in his last year before the Rangers drafted him in 2023. 14th rounder, so one of those guys that you do get late in drafts. And he is not disappointed at all. He had a fabulous year last year. His velocity is usually sits 93, 94. Can get it up to 97. It's a swing and miss pitch. This fastball is a legit pitch. I think at this point, inexperience is his biggest obstacle. Do the Rangers see him as a starter, or do they see him as a reliever? That's something you kind of have to weigh when you're talking about a young guy. I think at this point you let him start as long as he can, and then you decide. It's like, okay, he's going to be a reliever. A left-hander is always going to have a chance, right? And I think Josh is on his way to doing that. Just such unbelievable numbers really at high A last year. Had the 115 ERA, 115, 148 average against. He went up to Frisco, didn't go as well, which maybe isn't to be unexpected, but definitely a guy on the radar. Probably back at Frisco, and someone to look forward to seeing. And then Dalton Pence is another guy who has gotten some rave reviews just as a competitor and the kind of pitcher he is. Not going to overwhelm you with stuff necessarily. College guy, North Carolina, faced some good competition while there, and quiet, goes about his business, and just gets results. And what's wrong with that? I've always said I don't necessarily need to see a guy who can throw it through a wall. I want to see a guy who can get 3 outs, and that's kind of how the Rangers operated last year. I would like to see a guy who can throw it through a wall in the 9th inning, but maybe Dalton Pence has a future as a nice middle reliever who, again, hits the pockets. So we'll see how it plays out. I think he's a year or two away. Probably go back to high A. Maybe he goes to double A because of this big league opportunity. But we'll see. All right, time to sell some more stuff. And we'll do that next, and then we'll do batting cleanup because we are awaiting Skip Schumaker at 2:45 our time, 3:45 your time. So stay patient, and we'll be right after this. Okay, Supporters Club. Kat and I were talking earlier, and we are going to be putting together a video in the next few days, behind the scenes look at Texas Rangers spring training. From my perspective, um, it's going to be, I don't know, interesting. It should be. You know, if you guys haven't been here, I think a lot of you have. But if you guys haven't been here, definitely watch the video. If you're planning on coming, I'll try to give you some keen insight as to what to expect when you come here. Um, Hopefully you come here later and not today because it is cold and windy. But anyway, the Supporters Club, join it, and it's the diehard level for our YouTube channel. It's not doesn't cost much. You get those emojis, and it's videos, usually behind the scenes stuff, insights from careers, not just me, but also our Stars, Mavs, and Cowboys beats. There's a lot of experience at DLLS Sports, tons of it, and we're really, again, want you guys to have the best experience with us, to get the most insight you can, and to be part of the Supporters Club. Well, that's just another step in doing that. All right. Oh, Skip Schumaker says he's ready when we are. You want to do it now, or do you want to do it later? How about we do it? I'll say click the link and let's go. Click the link when ready. Isn't this fun? Live podcasts. So he could have done it at 2:30. All right. Well, whatever. Let's go, Kit. Let's go, Skip. Until he does pop in, um, buy some merch. I don't think he'll have time to buy it before he gets on, but store.allcitynetwork.com. Underneath my three top layers, I'm wearing the DLS shirt, the black one with the skyline, kind of the OG, I guess, the one that tells you who you are, and all of that stuff. So go ahead, if you're a diehard, you get 20% off. It's not just shirts though; it's hats, which I'm not wearing today. Churchill Downs, I guess, in honor of rarities from Louisville. But 5 hats, 50 plus shirts, sweatshirts, which I'll be wearing tomorrow because it's supposed to be chilly again. Flags, beer steins. All that you got, all that you want is at store.allcitynetwork.com. All right, so we're waiting, Skip. We're just going to go ahead and forego anything else. I will start, though, with a little batting cleanup until he gets here, just so we don't have to sit here and twiddle our thumbs. First up on batting cleanup is fantastic news for our good friend, Jared Sandler. I knew about it last week, but he finally went public with it. Jared and his wife, Emily, after years of trying, have produced this beautiful baby girl, Annie Sadler. When we talk about, well, why aren't the Rangers on the webcast? Well, Jared wasn't the guy doing them. Well, he's got bigger fish to fry. And man, what a deal. I'm sure Skip, who's about to pop on, is thrilled. There he is. Hello, Skip.
Hey, how's it going? Sorry about that.
Well, I know, rain, go away. What a pain in the butt. But I was telling these guys, and I don't know, you've probably heard by now, before games start, every year there is one day like this where everything gets pushed inside. And then during once games start, there will be one rainout. Don't know the day, but you can count it.
Well, it's better than Florida, I'll tell you that, because it felt like every single day when I was in St. Louis, it was like this. So luckily we have a lab, and the facilities are fantastic here. So we're very grateful for that we got all the work that we needed to get done in.
Now, were you guys able to do multiple at once in the lab? We've never been allowed in the lab, Skip. It's like forbidden from all media.
Yeah, there's two mounds, and one of them is the mound that you're getting ready in, and then the next mound over is the live. So we just kind of rifled through it like that. Yeah.
Okay. We talked today, this morning about Josh Spores. What did you see from Josh while he was throwing his?
Yeah, Josh did good. He filled up the zone like we were hoping for. He spun the ball very well. His velo was, in the 90s, 89 to 91 ish type deal. But he felt good coming out of it, and these guys. That was not an easy environment for anybody. Quite honestly, I mean, it's you're in your turfs, you are in a cage. Obviously, just a lot different than out on the field. So for the circumstances, everybody pitched well, and nobody got hurt. So that was the goal.
Yeah, I think with Josh, it's important to note that he never throws hard in spring training. It's a gradual buildup for him. So I know velocity is the big thing with him, but I don't think anybody should be too alarmed with the numbers you just spouted off. I think later in camp is when Josh usually starts to unwind. At least historically, that's what he's done.
Yeah, and again, it's a weird situation today in the lab. It was not outside. So I think once spring training games get going and he gets a couple outings under his belt, I think then we can really see where he's at. But again, he came out feeling good. That's the goal.
Absolutely. We the previous segment before you joined, basically talked about all the young guys who have been kicking butt and taking names in your estimation, like Collier and Trinidad, who you mentioned today, and we didn't talk about Loomis. I mean, we could have listed off so many of them. What is the common thing that they are all doing well there?
They're on the attack. I think that's the main thing is they're not scared. They're going after the hitters. There's a pretty good hitter normally in each group that has some significant big league time that they probably have watched the last few years in a on TV or an All-Star game or whatever it is, and so you find out kind of what they're made of a little bit. I know it's lives, but are they on the attack, or are they kind of nibbling around the zone? And so far, yeah, Loomis, Alstrom. I mean, you could there's Trinidad. There's a bunch of young guys that have no big league time that are showing that they can pitch and they're not scared. They have stuff to get big league hitters out. And so it's been fun to watch them in the lives. Obviously, game situation with fans in the stands is going to be a little bit different environment, but still a really good start.
Yeah, I was talking or texting today with Rylan down in Round Rock. He's their radio guy, and he had something interesting about Collier, who grew up a Braves fan and was a big uh, fan of the god dang reliever whose name just slipped out of my mind. Um, I'm embarrassed by this because I had this question ready to go. Um, Hang on one second, Rylan. Here we go. Add a baby. Craig Kimbrell. How could I forget that? He ended up with Round Rock last year. Do you see any Kimbrell in Collier?
I hope so, and that'd be nice. Future Hall of Famer and Kimbrel, that's not a bad guy to look up to. Listen, I don't do the comps. I think there's a question earlier today that me trying to comp Wyatt. I don't try to comp too
Yeah,
many guys. You can. I know the stuff is exciting. Kimbrel had a electric slider, and his fastball command, got better and better. But the slider you couldn't see. I mean, you swung at it every single time, and it was a ball, but you could not lay off of it. Collier has very electric stuff, major league stuff right now. Again, if he harnesses the control and which he has been and shown in this camp, then sure you can dream on stuff like his idol. But I think there's a
yeah,
way to go before we're talking about a Hall of Famer right now. But
sure.
I tell you what, the kid wants it, and he's going after it to get it.
Yeah, nice kid. Just so and grateful for the opportunity. And I think it's pretty cool that he's next to Evaldi and DeGrom, his locker. I mean, and you've talked about these guys trying to learn and absorb. Was there, like, when you were your first big league camps, were there guys who you glommed onto or tried to learn from as much as possible?
Well, St. Louis did a very similar thing. They put me in between Reggie Sanders and Jim Edmonds. So there's a reason why the clubhouses are like this, where you see a young guy mixed in with the veterans, or at least on that side, um, to learn from them. I mean, this is the time to do it. I want the guys to go in and watch Corey Seager and Wyatt Langford hit, with a cup of coffee and not just stooge on their phone inside the clubhouse. I want them to go watch, how Evo works out and then how he prepares, and then come back into the clubhouse and talk with him afterwards. And same with, the talks to hitters afterwards, like why is your routine and what makes him successful? Because that's the stuff that, is the separator. You try to figure, the talent, everybody has talent in this camp. Everybody has talent in the major leagues. There's 20,000 that have ever played this game. So, but why is there the 1%ers? And so that's what I think, these guys have to figure out, how you become a big leaguer and how you stay. So I think that's what these guys are trying to do. And I think there's a reason why there's certain guys in between certain guys in this clubhouse. And same with, when I was in St. Louis, very similar situation.
Yeah, I like it too. Position player wise, how has Evan Carter looked to you in what, the times you've seen him either hitting or shagging or whatever?
Explosive, athletic, in a really good headspace. Feels like he had a really healthy offseason for the first time in a while. Came into camp prepared, and from day one wants to play right away. Last year probably wasn't in the same spot, honestly. Probably tried to convince himself that he was, and he probably wasn't. And I think right now he's kind of figured out a lot of different things of how his body works, trying to maintain it. I will say that Brandon Nimmo is probably going to be really, really good for him. Very similar types of bodies, and maybe, in their career paths, who knows what's going to happen, but I see a lot of similarities, and I'm hopeful that they connect, in which they are, and, see where it goes.
Yeah, I told Evan this the first time I saw him, and this is, I'm not blowing smoke. To me, he looks stronger. Like his shoulders look broader. He looks like he had a full off season, which I don't think he's had for at least the last couple years. Well, last year for sure. Um, it just looks stronger. It looks better.
He's still growing. He's a kid. He's still young. He hasn't got his
Yeah.
strength yet, which is, he's not in his prime, and which is scary to think about, because he's, really good baseball player already. And I think you will see there's so much more room to grow. You're going to see him get more physical the next couple years. But you're right, from last year to this year, there's already a significant change, and I think you'll continue to see him grow, throughout this year and throughout the years to come.
Yeah. One thing that all of us reporters heard the other day, Brandon and Evan were going in to hit, and they'd done some base running stuff. I don't know what they're talking about, but Brandon said to Evan, "Our job is to score as many runs as possible in as few at bats as possible." So I think that's something you want to hear from guys who, are your on base guys, and a guy who's going to lead off and maybe a future leadoff hitter.
Yeah, again, so much has been made about slug in the game today, and I think what gets lost is the other parts of the game that help you score runs. And guys that have extreme velocity, which is 99% in the league, have to load up to get the velocity somehow. So how do we get on first? And once we get on first, how can we, dissect some of these pitchers that have big velo that we can get to second, and it doesn't take 3 hits to get home. It's just, one hit if we can after we get to second base. So anyway, there's a number of ways to score, and Brandon is a very smart baseball player, been around, knows what winning looks like, been around for a long time. And to have, Evan be or Nimmo be Evan's mentor is going to be, I don't know if he's calling him that yet, but it's going to be really good for him, because they'll be in the outfield, the veteran outfielder. He'll be good for Wyatt too. Nimmo's played center field, he's played left, he's played a number of different positions and been really good at it. And I think it's going to be help just our outfield culture as well.
Yeah, well, and those 2 guys you just mentioned, Evan and Wyatt, they both can't say enough nice things about Travis Jankowski. And this has been ongoing for a couple of years, because Travis was on the team when Evan came up, and then he was on the team when Wyatt debuted. Now he's their first base coach and base running coach. And I think it was this morning we talked about it. How aggressive are you going to be on the bases this year?
Well, it's not just me. It's the Rags, it's Griffin Benedict, and it's Travis. All together figuring out exactly how to not only get our speed guys to run, but we have what about the second tier type of speed guys? How can they get to second base also? We were really good scoring from second to home last year. So once we got there, like we were at the top 5 in the league of scoring from second base as far as like when it was hit, we were scoring. First to third, we weren't as great, and stolen bases, our efficiency was really, really good. But how can we get the second tier guys, not just the burners, to get that extra base is the question. And so I think all the scouting reports will be individualized. It's not just like leg kick and go. He's a 1.4. It's like each guy has something that they'll be looking for to be able to go. The only time they won't be able to go is just from a red light type of quote unquote red light, not to a hold from either the dugout or they don't like what they see from Travis. But for the most part, these guys will be green. I don't want them to fear getting thrown out. That's the last thing you want them to do is feel like they're locked up if they get thrown out one time. So I want them to understand that to be an athlete, be a baseball player, if you're prepared and you go and you get out, that's okay.
My goal for Jake Berger this year, well, I have a lot of them, but steal 10 bases. I think he can do it. I think he's got the sneaky speed.
He does have sneaky speed. I mean, if you look at when he gets going, Jake's a good athlete, and so I agree. I think he's going to get more than what he had last year. But yeah, I think Jake probably has more goals also, and stolen base probably wasn't part of his plan initially coming in. But again, he's a really smart kid, good baseball player. It wouldn't surprise me if he got double digits.
He did say that he worked on his running form in the offseason with Travis. Travis gave him some pointers, so I think it's in him. I think it's there. Skip, this is my 19th spring training, and I don't, knock on wood, don't want to jinx anything with one day to go before games, but it seems like this period has gone about as well as you guys could have expected. And now that games are going on, what are you going to look for?
Yeah, I think so too. I think the staff has done really well of building some relationships, the new guys and the old guys, building relationships within each other, with each other in that clubhouse, in the coaches' room. We have a lot of new faces, and they've bonded really well. I can hear them laughing right now. So I mean, it's been going really, really smooth. I think I think JV has. Our Justin Veely, our hitting coach, has grown already in a number of ways because he's first time being a number one. You hear his voice. He's taking command of a room. He's been excellent to listen to. One of the better meetings I've ever been a part of the other day when he was addressing the club. So he's been excellent. But again, the players have to perform, but a really good start. But I'm looking for the guys to the adjustments that they've made, put them to the test and see what it looks like. And I don't want them to tinker after one game and panic after one game. And I think test out what you've been working on, and then come out healthy. So that's kind of where I'm at. If we feel good, our bodies feel good, and we accomplish some stuff that we've been working on the off season. Come opening day, I think we'll be in a good spot, but I think most teams will say that.
All right, Skip. Thanks for adjusting on the fly here. We really appreciate it. I've been wanting to get you on all off season, and we're glad to do it before games started. So enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see you tomorrow morning, bright and early. But again, thanks for joining us. The chatters loved it, and let's have some fun this spring.
Sounds great. Thanks for having me.
All right, Skip. Take care.
Have a good night.
Guys, Skip Schumaker. Yep. Skip Schumaker, manager of the Texas Rangers. Man, it was nice of him to come in there. I saw all your guys' questions a little late. The Jock question was good. I think they're high on Jock right now, too. Anyway, we will have a chance to sell some diehard memberships right after this, and then we'll do that last bit of batting cleanup coming up next. All right, diehard. Scan the QR code. Go to alldls.com/join or /intro. Maybe we can save you some bucks that way. Regular price $79.99. Hey, it's such a good deal. I counted them up. I've been here since last Monday. So what is that? Well, last Tuesday in camp. So that's 8 days of camp, and I've written 12 stories. So a little more than one a day. This is our third podcast here. Saw the video content on Twitter, which is free. But in the event, you can't read most of my stuff. Of those 12 stories, 11 have been behind the paywall. So become a diehard, please. $79.99, like I said, and you get 20% off of merch, 20% off our events. You get not just access to Rangers stuff, but to Cowboys, Stars, and Mavs, whatever else we end up covering in the future. All will be included under the diehard membership umbrella. Those of you who are in there and see in the chat and are diehards know what you get. I'm sure you would speak very highly of the value you're getting. And I would encourage all of you listening and watching, and all of you in the chat, encourage other people, your friends, to become diehards. Again, scan the QR code, alldls.com/intro. We'll see what we can do for you there. And then just to finish up on the merch talk, lots of it, more than 50 t-shirts. We're going to have a sale that's going to start tomorrow on our merch. I think we're supposed to start mentioning it tomorrow. Well, guess what? We don't have a show tomorrow, so we're going to mention it today, by God. Going to have I think it's 30% off sale, and so go there. Go ahead and wait a day, but when you go, you got to buy something, all right? Because I gave you this in advance. So again, shirts, t-shirts, sweatshirts, hats, flags, pint glasses, coffee cups, all there at store.allcitynetwork.com. All right, back to the cleanup segment. We'll always pause the cleanup segment for an opportunity to speak to somebody like the manager there. Again, on the Jared Sandler, great news. You know, Sean McFarland over the morning news documented it in the offseason. The trials that Jared has had in his wife and attempting to have their first child, and the journey. And he in his tweet showing off his beautiful daughter said, "Hey, I'm with you on the journey. There is light at the end of the tunnel." So, and now he joins a pretty big club of players people with the Rangers who've had babies this off season. Corey Seager, Josh Smith. They were actually on one of the fields yesterday with their Corey boy, Josh girl, holding their babies together so their wives could take pictures, probably on the Instagram and TikTok. Cody Bradford's wife was walking around with their beautiful girl, Ellie Jean. She was a little fussy, but had a chance to talk to Maddie. Danny Jansen had a baby right after, I think it was right after he signed with the Rangers. And then Jordan Montgomery, his boy, was born on January 14th. So what is that? With Jared, that's 6, and I'm probably missing some. Anyway, they've been busy. Good for them. All right, around baseball, with the Twins, they already have all these problems with not having a very good roster. At least they still have Joe Ryan, because it looks like Pablo Lopez is going to have surgery for a torn UCL. He's in the middle of a really big deal. I think he's got 4 years and 70-something million left on it. So doesn't look like he'll be pitching this year. I'm sure he's getting a second opinion and all that stuff, but don't look for Pablo Lopez this season with the Twins. And then the Padres, as we were talking about earlier when we were talking about the union and how the middle class has been kind of wiped out, or has, whatever I was saying. Walker Buehler, who made $20 million last year pitching for the Red Sox, he just had to sign a minor league deal with the Padres to be in their camp. He did not have a good year. It wasn't a great year. He pitched against the Rangers, as I recall, and I just remember as he was pitching in his first year back from Tommy John, by the way, that there wasn't a lot of juice there. He wasn't striking out guys like he used to. Maybe he's recaptured that. If he did, Padres have a heck of a bargain on their hands. Down there in where are the Braves train? West Palm Beach, somewhere down there in Florida. Spencer Schwellenbach, who was already out because of surgery, he went to I believe to Arlington and had some loose bodies removed from his elbow. And his buddy Herson Waldrop is going to have a similar procedure on Monday. Two young starters. The Braves keep producing these great young starters as they've done. It seems like forever now, but they're going to be without them for a while. Uh, Waldrop hasn't been ruled out for the season yet, but there's obviously going to be significant missed time there. Kind of a bummer for them, but they've got Martin Perez, baby. Martin Perez. That's why you sign these guys. They come out looking like depth and they end up playing a role for you. So that's pretty good. All right. What do we got in the chat? Yeah, Rarities. Gallon did sign 22.05 million. I like the Jake Berger 30-30 in 2020. Awesome. I hope you guys are right. Sorry, Kelly, man, about the head first slide thing. It is kind of weird. I wonder if that's a comfort thing or what. And I wonder how you teach a guy to change like that. But I get it. All right. Yeah, Skip was great. I agree with you 100%. Hopefully we can get some more guys on here. I know some players that we'll be able to get on next week when I'm out of town. And when I'm back in town, we'll try to get somebody on. Once the game starts, though, it gets a little trickier. There'll have to be guys who are off that day. Pitchers will tend to do it. I know a couple guys who I'm pretty sure we will be able to get on. Just trust me on that one. Some good guys. Hopefully they aren't playing golf, though. Janet, can you let us know if and when RSN will be airing games? Yes, but not until like the last weekend, or the next to last weekend. 6 games total, and then among those 6 are the 2 games at Globe Life Field against the Royals, and then the team will leave that afternoon for Philadelphia. Probably work out on the 25th, open the season on the 26th. Benny, does Skip have any aspirations to one day be a GM? It's kind of interesting. Last year he kind of got a taste of that. I think he wants to play out this manager thing. So we'll see how that works. Jeff, have you filmed any of the facilities since Monday? I have not. Tomorrow is going to be my big day. I think I may turn on my phone right when I wake up. I don't know if I want you guys to see that though. It's kind of rough, but we'll see how everything plays out. But I do have a little bit of a game plan for tomorrow. Purdue is Skip going to utilize the hit and run more? I wouldn't be surprised. I think personnel will dictate it, but I think the thing to always remember about Skip, and he kind of talked about his St. Louis days. Who was the manager? Tony La Russa, right? What happened? What was prevalent in those days in the National League? Pitchers hit, so there was a lot more hitting and running and bunting and things like that. I'm not saying the Rangers are going to emulate a National League team from the non-DH days, but I wouldn't be surprised if you feel some of it in there. And I don't know, the base running. When I think about base running, when I was growing up, at least, I was the Cardinals, right? I mean, it was Vince Coleman and Willie McGee. Probably Tommy Herr got in there and stole a bunch of bases. So there you go. There you go. Benny Evaldi should be our opening day starter. We'll see. They're definitely going to pitch the first series. I don't think there's any question about that. Yeah, and Janet, whoever goes second would probably start the opener in Arlington. You're right, because it's a 6-game road trip. There's that off day on the Friday, the day after the season opener, I guess, to account for weather. But whoever starts opening day would be needed at the end of the road trip, unless they muddle with the rotation. But that just hasn't been their style. They want to rest these guys and let them build up a little slowly. So there you go. We have plenty of answers to your questions. And Galaga, the No Frills webcast is really nice. What does that mean? I don't understand. No Frills webcast. With John, do you not like the guests? Okay, Galaga, no guests. How about that? All right, I'm messing with you guys. Anyway, thanks for joining us. I'm glad that Skip was able to join us. I know it was a roller coaster there for the 20 or 30 minutes beforehand. But yeah, it's time for me to go get a drink. And Kat probably needs one too after the scramble that we did. So, oh, Galaga, I was talking about game webcast. I wish they had the game webcast too. I'm in their booth right now, and there's nothing in here. Usually it's loaded up and ready to go. They could have asked me. I would have done it. I would have done it. All right. Okay, guys, that's it for today. We will be back Friday. We are going to go we're going to go at noon Central Time on Friday. That way I can ensure that I will have a booth to do the show from and, get out of the way ahead of the game, plenty of time before the game in case there's any crazy MLB rights rules or anything like that we can get out of the way of and just have a good time. All right, guys. Until then, we'll see you later. Thanks for watching the DLS Rangers podcast.